Hello, my name is Alicia. I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and on this channel I want to share the things that I have learned from dialectical behavior therapy and from my own experiences with this disorder with you. If you like what I'm doing so far, please subscribe. In this series, I will be talking about the 9 diagnostic criteria for BPD. 5 of them need to be met in order for the person to qualify for a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. Our criterion for today is frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. As I am making this video, it is believed that BPD develops due to both social and biological factors, so there is a certain predisposition. Imagine a child who is very sensitive and who has gone through trauma. It could be neglect or even just their parents getting a divorce, a toxic environment at school, perhaps being not accepted by their peers, maybe due to that very sensitivity. Failed friendships and relationships, which of course happens to all of us. And voila, you might get someone with borderline traits or the full-blown borderline personality disorder. When it comes to your personal history, it's very hard to untangle cause and effect. But for me personally, I am absolutely sure that my parents' divorce and my father's disappearance from my life was one of the things that made me fear abandonment to this extent. This fear, it's very intense and very visceral. It's not like an adult being afraid of something. It feels more like becoming that 7-year-old child again. It feels like, have you ever had this dream where the building around you is crumbling? Well, this is what fear of abandonment feels like to me. It's like the whole world is falling apart. If I think about it, it feels a lot like fear of death. Consciously, I know that even if I'm abandoned by my partner, for example, I will survive and maybe even thrive. But this terror of abandonment, it goes really deep. It's a physical feeling akin to a panic attack. It can be so deep, in fact, that when you're feeling it, you're not even realizing that you're feeling it. Maybe because that inner child doesn't have the vocabulary and the awareness to put a name to it. This symptom of BPD is destructive to relationships, and thus it perpetuates itself. You fear abandonment, so you act out and you scare people off and they abandon you and you feel hurt, and that makes you fear abandonment even more. We all react to it a bit differently at different stages in our lives. Some people may become so fearful that they don't allow themselves to get attached to anyone anymore. A safe attachment seems impossible, so why put yourself in danger? Some people avoid close relationships altogether, but because many people with BPD feel like they are unable to be alone, they get into relationships with people they are not really in love with, or they just keep a very unhealthy emotional distance. So, what can we do to break this cycle? Obviously, go to therapy. Nothing can beat that. But here is some advice on how to deal with fear of abandonment in the moment. Number 1. Notice that you're feeling that fear. This is not always as easy as it sounds. Sometimes the fear can be so intense that you can't think straight. We just say or do something destructive before we even realize how we are feeling. This is why checking in with yourself is so important. I have talked about how to evaluate the way you're feeling in my video on DBT high tension skills. I'll link that in the description box below. Number 2, if you're indeed in that high tension zone, if at all possible, remove yourself from the situation. I find it useful to be alone for at least a half an hour. Firstly, because it prevents me from worsening the situation by saying or doing something wrong. And secondly, because I'm not at that level yet where you do skills without even realizing it. I need to concentrate. Number 3, your high stress or high tension tolerance skills. Get out your chili candy, your essential oils and your ice cubes, and do your skills until your anxiety goes down and you can think clearly again. Number 4, opposite action, thinking, and posture. Sometimes our emotions demand an immediate reaction and we end up doing or saying something we wish we hadn't. Those very things that destroy our relationships and perpetuate our fear of abandonment. It is very hard to trust our therapist or even our own better judgment over those very powerful emotions. But it needs to be done. First of all, remind yourself that whatever the situation is, you most probably don't need to act right away. It can wait a couple of days until you get a clear head. I find this thought very helpful. That's why "take your time" is engraved on the pendant I'm wearing. So, first of all, opposite action. Don't do whatever harmful behavior you would normally do. It could be accusing your partner of something, putting yourself in dangerous situation, drinking lots of alcohol, self-harm, etc. Make the decision to not do what feels most natural to your triggered self. Second is opposite thinking. Instead of thinking of what has just happened or of what might happen, remind yourself of a similar situation with which you have dealt successfully, or a situation that is like this one but in which you felt safe. For example, your partner is late home from work and doesn't pick up their phone. Instead of thinking that they must have been in a car crash and died, remember other times when they were late because of traffic, or because they wanted to buy some groceries on the way, or maybe a bouquet of flowers for you. That's nice of them, isn't it? They then came back and everything was fine, and there is a chance that this time everything will turn out okay too. And finally, opposite posture means getting into a position that is not the position that your emotions would have you in. Don't curl up in a ball. Instead, straighten your back, put your shoulders back, and clench your fists. This posture will not be consistent with the mood you're in, and that is a good thing. Consider moving around, going for a walk, or doing some exercises. This is not easy to do, but if you practice this opposite posture, it will help. Number 5 is closely intertwined with number 4. Make the decision to take the new path. Again, more on that in my Radical Acceptance, Willingness, and New Path video. I'll link that in the description box below. Remind yourself you're open, aware, and awake, and you are ready to do what needs to be done, even if it's not something that your emotions want you to do right now. Radically accept that this is what the situation is, and this is how you're feeling about it right now. To quote my DBT book, the situation is what it is because it cannot be any different, or it would have been a different situation altogether. And finally, number 6, find a distraction. Watch a light-hearted video, or take a bubble bath, practice a hobby, talk to a friend or to a family member. Get out of your home, go for a walk or for some shopping. Suppressing your emotions is very unhealthy, but a distraction is sometimes exactly what we need to deal with overwhelming emotions. Once you feel calm enough, maybe a day or 2 after the episode, try and find out what triggered your fear of abandonment. Is it a trigger that can be avoided in the future? Or maybe you could be mindful of it, and the next time when it happens, you could use some opposite thinking. You could formulate a special sentence that helps you with that and write it down so you always have it at hand. For example, here's one of mine. The problem I'm thinking about may arise one day, but it is not a problem right now. I will deal with it if and when it arises. I also like reminding myself to focus on the present. Like, right now I am at home with my partner. They've just told me that they love me, and they are not going anywhere today or tomorrow. So for now, I am safe. Remember that these exercises are just like exercises for your muscles. They need to be done regularly over time to have a notable effect. The more you do them, the easier they get. And one day, you'll be doing them unconsciously, like you shift gears in your car without even thinking about it. So I really hope this helps. I'll talk to you, or rather at you, again soon. Bye!